Welcome to the Arizona Clinical Informatics' video educational series on Cerner Power Chart, lesson number 8, Orders, Part 1. Prior to getting into the demonstration of the Orders M page and the process of entering and discontinuing orders, I'd like to discuss times where we have issues dealing with how order entries are taken care of. This was what the purpose of this particular lesson is, and we will start with common order entry errors. Our first topic is selecting the correct physician. Anytime you're placing an order as a nurse or caregiver, you need to double check to make sure that the correct physician is placed. Common mistakes occur when there are multiple physicians with the same or similar last names, such as Ahmad, Ahmed, Anderson, Ba, Chadha, Gupta, Lee with two E's, and the list goes on and on. Another thing to remember is never select a provider with an RO or a read-only position when the patient is in for a surgery or residing in an actual room. This does not send stuff back for co-signature to those physicians and runs into many legal issues. Other issues deal with the hospitalist in the house. When placing orders for the hospitalist, make sure you are not selecting, for instance, a Dr. Baruti when maybe a Dr. Bitsa is on call. Always put in the order on the name of the physician that you are receiving the order from. Because you are not a provider or a physician, anytime that you place an order on a patient, you will have this order communication box that pops up. Within this order communication box, we have the physician name, the order date and time, and a communication type. The communication types deal strictly with how you receive that information to activate the order. We'll go into more of that in detail later. For now, we're going to pretend as if we received an order from a physician. To do so, you start typing in the physician's last name. For instance, over to the right, you see I've typed in the last name of Gupta. If there is more than one physician with that last name, you will see the following, which states multiple matches next to the name that you typed in. Select the magnifying glass button in order to select the correct physician who gave the order to you. Please make sure you select the actual physician who gave you the order. In the screenshot to the right, you see that Dr. Nishant Gupta, physician ERX, is highlighted. This is the physician who gave me the order. I would not have selected Dr. Ashish Gupta, who is also a physician ERX cardiology services, as he was not the one that gave me the order. So be careful when selecting it, because the way the eye moves, if you're in a hurry, you would have selected the first one. You need to go down and find the actual physician. If you do not know the physician's first name, you need to call them back and get their name so you can select the right physician. Never select the provider with a RO or read-only role. If you notice, there are two Guptas. Actually, there's more than two. There's 5 Guptas with a read-only role on here. You see highlighted in positions the RO no access. That stands for read-only. Once I have found the correct physician that I want to select, I select the OK button after they're highlighted. Our next common order entry issued or problem that we come across is planned order sets. Having order sets in a planned status allows the user to pre-place orders prior to their actual need. Most commonly, these will be pre-admission or post-operative orders. The nurse needs to review these order sets in a planned status to determine when to activate or initiate them. A user should always utilize the correct order communication type when initiating a planned order set. If a physician, a CRNA, PA, or nurse practitioner placed the order, the nurse does not alter that order until it is activated or initiated. If there is an order in the set that needs altered, you must activate the planned set first, then select the order and utilize the cancel reorder function. There are instances where an order sets are left in a planned status and they're never activated. This can be a patient safety issue. If you are unsure if a planned order set should be activated, always contact the author of that order set for clarification. You can always right-click on the order set and select Plan Information, and you will see who authored that order set. Never add any additional orders or order sets under a physician when there is a planned order set with the same orders waiting to be activated or initiated. Always initiate that order set before just typing in fresh orders. Here's a screenshot of the Orders In page looking at the view pane. You'll notice highlighted and outlined in red is a planned order set. Right below that in bold with the word initiated is an initiated order set. Let's now look at the proper use of order communication types. What I would like to do now over the next several minutes is to discuss the types of order communications, their definitions. So you see here on the pop-up screen that you get for when you're ordering an order for a physician, the communication types. There's protocol, phone readback, verbal readback, order maintenance, written, and initiate power plan planned by provider. We'll go over all of these into precise details, and then afterwards we're going to have some practice questions. I'll give you a few moments to think about the answer before I give you the actual answers. Over the next few moments we're going to discuss the types that are available, when to use a specific type of order communication type, why do you want to use that type, what happens if you use that type incorrectly, and how to know when to use a type when the order is already in a planned status. We'll start with probably the most abused of the order communication types, that being the initiate power plan planned by provider. This particular order communication type is only utilized when a provider, that being a physician, a PA, a nurse practitioner, CRNA, or a midwife, has signed and placed the order set themselves into what is called a planned status. The staff only initiates the order sets, they do not add to it or modify it, and this order communication type is never used on single orders. This particular order communication type does not require a provider signature because the provider has already placed the order set themselves and placed them in a hold or planned status. An order set in a planned status that has been placed by a provider cannot be altered by a staff member. Altering it changes the whole plan to the person's name who altered it. If you must alter an order, you have to initiate first, then cancel and or reorder the order that needs altered. When you cancel, reorder an order to alter, you can use the order communication type of order maintenance. To see if a licensed provider placed the planned orders, first of all, you must find the planned order. You'll find that in the view pane. Right-click on that order in the view pane and select the word Plan Information. What you get is this plan information that pops up, and you will see that there is a licensed provider name available on here. For instance, if you look at the one here, this is a blood transfusion order that's in a planned status. When I right-click on it and say Plan Information, we see that it was planned and electronically signed by Dr. Joshua Allen, a DO. This shows us that this was a physician that put this order set in a planned status. Because of that, we can now initiate it using the order communication type of initiate power plan planned by provider. If this had had an RN name there, I could not use the initiate power plan planned by provider. I would have to find out who the physician was that she or he received the documentation from for that order, and I would have to place that order in the method that they received it, via phone, verbal, or protocol. Let's move on to the next order communication type, that being the communication type of protocol. This type is only used on order sets that have been pre-approved by the medical executive committees to be classified as protocol orders. A user will never use this if the provider themselves have placed the order and the staff is activating or initiating it. If you have that case, it would be the initiate power plan planned by a provider order communication type that would be used. This particular order type requires a physician's co-signature. Generally, the protocol order set should be activated at the time of order and not placed in a planned status and then activated. Exceptions to this, where you do find these orders in a planned status, is in the L&D and nursery order sets. If protocol was used initially and then they were placed in a planned status, when the nurse activates these, they have to use the word protocol again. They would not use the initiate plan or the initiate power plans planned by the provider, as this would cause an issue of the orders not going for co-signature to the physician, which this order set still requires. Okay, this order communication type should be a given for you. Phone readback. This is utilized on orders or order sets that are received via the telephone. This order communication type is only used when a provider calls you to give orders. This can be for order sets or single order use. It is mandatory that the provider stays on the line while you enter the orders into the system, as there are alerts that may pop up that only a provider can legally answer. This type will require a provider's signature. The next order communication type is verbal readback. This is utilized when the provider is present but is unable to place the orders themselves. This is usually performed when there is an emergency or a surgical procedure in process. It is never used when a physician is at the nurse's station and just ask a nurse to do this. It should not be used when there are roundings by physicians being done. The goal is here that all physicians enter their own orders. So please remember that this, again, is usually performed only when there is an emergency or a surgical procedure in process. During a verbal communication, the provider has to stay present while you place the orders. This is so they can answer any alerts that may appear while you are placing them. Again, not to overemphasize, but to drive it in. It is only to be used in emergent situations or when a provider is scrubbed into a surgical procedure. This type of order communication type always requires a physician signature. The next order communication type is that of written. It is utilized only when a provider has supplied written or faxed orders to the hospital and the staff is entering them into the computer or during a downtime. So you could only use this communication type if you have your hands on an actual physical written or faxed order. It is not to be used as a correction to any existing orders, nor to address additional orders into the system. It does not require a signature because a written faxed order exists with the physical signature of the physician already present. Our final order communication type is order maintenance. It is utilized when cleaning up existing orders, discontinuing no longer needed orders such as pre-op orders, orders replaced by new orders, but not DC'd by the provider. Here's the reasons that you would use order maintenance. To clean up on an existing order. For instance, the physician ordered an exam, but the staff member accidentally cancels the first order and orders it again. Discontinuing an order that is no longer valid. Orders that need canceled that have been replaced by new orders, and canceling of duplicate orders. This particular order communication type cannot be used when correcting an admit to order. If you have to correct and admit to order, you have to use phone or verbal communication, as these orders require a physician or provider co-signature. So let's do a little bit of a practice. On the order below, the CRNA post-anesthesia care PACU order that is in a planned status, how do you know which communication type to use to initiate it? Here's the way to find out. Right-click on the planned order set and select the word Plan Information. It all depends on who planned and electronically signed the order set. By selecting plan information on this particular order set, I can see that it was planned and electronically signed by Jake Reinen, a CRNA. So which communication type would you use to activate this order set? And can you give us the reason why you would use that particular order communication type? Your answer is initiate power plan planned by provider. Any order that is placed by a licensed provider can be activated using Initiate Power Plan Planned by Provider. This includes physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, CRNAs. All right, here's another practice one. Here in the screenshot, we have electrolyte replacement basic planned. Which order communication type would you use? To decide, we have to look at the plan information on any planned order set. This particular one says it was planned and electronically signed by Sherry Oliver, RN. So which communication type would be utilized? Well, this one's a little tricky because it depends on the location and the hospital that your patient is at. On most units, the electrolyte protocol order set is a protocol, and that particular order communication type of protocol would work. However, on other units and other hospitals, the method of which the nurse received the order, whether it is phone or verbal, would be the correct one to use. As a reminder, protocol type is only used on order sets that have been pre-approved by the MEC to be classified as protocol orders. At each hospital, protocol-approved orders vary. All right, here's another one. We have a blood transfusion basic that is in a planned status. I right-click on it, and I select plan information, and I see that it was planned and electronically signed by Dr. Joshua Allen, DO. Which order communication type would I use? Your answer? Initiate Power Plan Planned by Provider. This is because the order was placed and planned by the physician. What about this scenario? A patient has two different diet orders. One was entered yesterday at 2300 as an NPO. One was entered today at 10 o'clock, and it was a cardiac diet. If you were thinking order maintenance, you are correct. The patient had a procedure and was NPO. The provider placed a cardiac diet, but he failed to cancel out the NPO order. So we could cancel out the yesterday's order of NPO by using the order communication type of order maintenance. In this scenario, the physician is scrubbed in, placing a central line in a patient, and that physician asks for a stat portable chest x-ray. What order communication type would you utilize? Your answer would be verbal readback. This is because the physician was scrubbed in and could not physically place the order, but needed a stat order on a patient, and this being a portable chest x-ray. And because they were scrubbed in, this is allowed as a verbal readback. A physician has called you up and tells you to add amiodarone 200 milligrams by mouth twice daily and Coumadin 5 milligrams by mouth daily. He hangs up, though, prior to you entering the information. Which order communication type would you utilize? I'm sorry, that was a trick question. Actually, there is no communication type that you could use because he needs to remain on the line while you put in the orders. Coumadin and amiodarone have drug interaction alerts tied to them, and they need to be addressed by a provider. As a nurse, I cannot answer those alerts without clarification from the provider. Let's add a little bit to this scenario again. Here, the physician calls you up and tells you to add amiodarone 200 milligrams by mouth twice daily and Coumadin 5 milligrams by mouth daily. He stays on the line while you enter the information. The correct answer would be phone order readback. This is because the physician called you on the phone and remained on the line while you placed the orders and checked for alerts. You have reached the end of Cerner lesson number 8, part 1 of orders. I hope you enjoyed this little review of the order communication type and some of the common issues that we have when nurses and staff are placing orders on the behalf of physicians. Please go to part 2, which is the next lesson.